As for me, I personally preferred the term separate development. That was the term they used a lot when I was younger, and I loved that term. I thought that term explained it dead on. Because what they then started doing was they started giving blacks chunks of territory, saying this is your homeland, you rule it, you do your own thing. So that's the context. But P.W. Botha then jumps around, and other Boers have also said a similar thing to what he says, where they say, well, you know, we didn't start apartheid. The British started apartheid. And Lord Milner and Cecil John Rhodes, they did apartheid. We didn't have apartheid, but that is also a bit of a disingenuous defense, that. Because in the Boer republics, for example, when the Boers were living in the Boer republics, blacks couldn't vote there. So there was apartheid in the Boer republics. When the Boers were free, and before the British came, the Boers didn't have blacks voting in their republics. You see, the bottom line with all the whites, the Rhodesians, the Boers, the South Africans, whether they are English-speaking or Afrikaans-speaking, is at the end of the day, all these whites were racist, and they didn't want blacks ruling them, and they didn't want blacks to have the freaking vote, okay? And they never even considered these things feasible. They looked down on the blacks to such a degree, they regarded them as total morons, and they had no intention whatsoever of allowing them to ever have a vote, and that is how the whites were for hundreds of years. And it is only now after World War II that suddenly now this is an issue. And then you have the rise of communism and liberalism and all this other stuff. Only then does it become a problem. But for the prior 300 years, whether it was Boers living by themselves or Boers living under the British, the system is racist. Though, to add to it, another proof of the racism of the Boers is that even under the British system, which they say was segregation, you will find that the Boers left the Cape Colony because they regarded the British as too liberal. And there were, in fact, some whites who did marry black women. So, the Boers leaving the Cape, a large part of the reason they left the Cape, which was British rule, was because the British were too liberal and the British were applying the same laws to them as to the blacks. And they wanted to go and live in their own country, rule themselves, and they were going to be more racist. But you find lots of these Boers trying to now duck and dive and blame it on the British and so forth. The fact is, all whites, including the British, including every single colony in Africa by every single European nation, everybody was racist.